Chapter 4. Sometime in the 70's and 80's. I was little and outside playing. All the time when it was nice out, it seems, I was outside playing. Riding my tricycle up and down the sidewalk, running around with my bionic woman shoes on. Sometimes playing with kids, most times happily playing alone. Mom in the house, looking out the window or door every now and again to check on me, but otherwise busy doing all her mom things in the house. Maybe playing down the basement in the rec room, setting all my stuffed animals up in rows while I was the teacher, drawing on the little chalkboard down there. Telling Mom I wanted a snack and returning with a bowl of blueberry-flavored cereal with ghost marshmallows, cartoon ghosts on the box. In anxiety healing videos I have watched, I have learned that it's necessary to go right back to the beginning of when you began to feel anxious, when you began to feel unsafe. Pinpoint that time in your life. It's your inner child that needs healing, I heard. Find that stage, that period, that moment, if there was one, when you were a child and that turbulence changed you. Well, I didn't think for the past several months as I wind along this healing path that I had an inner child that needed healing. I figured it was definitely Karen at 20, whose boyfriend had died, and probably Karen at 14, who became so disillusioned with the high school world that had been the start of years of depression and cynicism. But then I realized I was wrong. There was an inner child who I'd overlooked. I know, this sounds very touchy-feely. It sounds super-duper, poor little me, hug me, little Karen needs love. But seriously, sometimes you have to just keep digging. There was definitely little Karen, who roamed around free, playing and playing with her toys. She had long hair and dirty feet. And then there was little 5-year-old Karen, who wasn't free anymore, had to go to school, and had her long, knotted hair cut short. School. Parties over. I remember Mom selling me on the idea of getting my hair cut short. My long, wavy, kind of curly, knotted hair. Aunt Cecily is going to cut all the knots out and taper your hair under. Doesn't that sound nice? I guess so? Doesn't seem like I had much say in the matter. And what did tapered mean anyway? I pictured my hair literally styled with Scotch tape along the bottom to curl it under all tidy. First day of school. I tried to make the best of it. I said hi to a very sad-looking girl in a pink polyester shirt with white polka dots and matching pants. She was leaning against the wall with her hands behind her back. She just looked at me. A mishmash of kids playing. One boy racing around the blacktop like a maniac. It was still hot out because it was September, but I had to wear stiff, hot, less comfortable clothes. The teacher wasn't particularly nice. She was kind of a grouch most of the time. Sometimes we could play, and that was fun, but then other times we had to sit around the boring circle, and that was serious. And you got in trouble for laughing at the kid across the circle who was making hilarious faces, and you got yelled at when you laced your fingers together at the knuckles and said to that boy who was racing around on the first day, "Look, it's a shark! Urgh!" Every day when we came into class we sang, "Good afternoon, what a happy day," because we were in the afternoon class, and apparently being at school equaled a happy day. Really. That was a bit of a crock. The crafts were complicated, and the teacher got totally irked at my denseness one time and exclaimed, super annoyed, that the paste was right in front of your nose. Sensitive little dork that I was, that was enough to make me feel like crying for hours after that. It was a confusing new world of scary big kids, a grouchy teacher, and not nearly enough playtime. School is no doubt a huge culture shock to most kids, and especially to kids who have always been highly sensitive. One time a spontaneous event occurred whereby someone got up and kissed the teacher on the cheek during circle time. Then we all got up and formed a line, and one by one kissed her on the cheek. It felt like a strange thing to do. Her cheek felt weirdly soft, crepey. So there you have it, my inner child. 5-year-old Karen with her little round haircut, whose magical, carefree days of endless playtime were done, and now replaced with a surprising world filled with teachers who were mostly uninspiring and seemed to yell a lot, a super red-faced principal who gave boys the strap, and a lot of kids who were basically just kind of jerks. Maybe call you fatty in the hall, or gang up on you at some point. Sure, you get a little toughened up to that stuff, a little, but it's still a bit of a culture shock when at heart you're just a nice, extremely reserved kid. I had a recurring, what shall I call it, concern when I was a kid. The great, where will I put my coat conundrum. Whenever we'd go visit anyone, I'd ask Mom every time before we got there, where will I put my coat? It's the stupidest thing, right? Mom had no patience for this. She clearly thought it was a ridiculous thing to worry about, and it would be all over the tone of her voice. I don't know. We'll worry about that when we get there. And I would be worrying about it the whole drive there. Then we would arrive, and there I'd be, desperately whispering to Mom as she was already emotionally leaving my brother and I at the door and chatting with whoever we were visiting. Mom, where should I put my coat? But I don't remember that ever really being effectively resolved. She just would never give it to me. The point of this is, I still don't know the point, but that memory of my ongoing coat placement fears is funny, but just continues to stand out for some reason. School is a fact of life, though, so I'm sure I got used to it. What I never got used to and learned in those classrooms and hallways and on the playground was the early lesson that people would be mean just for the sake of being mean. I was doing well in elementary school. I'm smart, and schoolwork for the most part came pretty easy, luckily. Yes, I sucked at math. In one of the older grades, I was in a math extra help group because I did not get the concept of rounding off numbers. It was like pulling the finished number out of a magical hat. And most of the kids in class found it completely obvious, but I was mystified. I hated math. I remember in grade 1, I wasn't allowed to leave for lunch until I finished my math worksheet. I was horrified. My walk home took 15 minutes as it was, and that time to get home and eat my heated canned pasta and watch the Flintstones before heading back to school was precious. So, I bribed a classmate to do my math and said I would give her my allowance, 50 cents. I can still picture that girl seriously toiling over that page. When I got home for lunch, I casually asked if I could get my allowance money. On allowance day, Mom said. Oh no! I wailed. I promised blah blah if she finished my math for me, I'd give her my allowance. Needless to say, my parents didn't think I was as shrewd and enterprising as I thought I was. Good old grade 1. That is when kids have to emerge from the relative safety bubble of the kindergarten classroom and actually begin doing real work with no playtime breaks and no built-in washroom with small, short sink and toilet. One day in winter, one of the boys peed his pants and had to wear his snow pants for the rest of the day. I can still picture the pee pooled in that slightly scooped metal chair seat and the embarrassed look on his face. Grade 1 was also the year that I was a swear mouth. Oh yeah. I totally used to curse it up. I have a clear memory of walking home after school with a girl and 2 boys who lived in the neighborhood. One of the boys stopped to take a leak in the field on the way home, and the other one grabbed his school bag and raced off with it, just for the fun of it. 6-year-old Karen was outraged and stood in the park screaming, "Get back here, Brett, you fucking asshole!" By grade 2, I had reformed and gave up all the bad words. This may have coincided with one of those visits we'd get in the late 70's, early 80's from the Gideons, who would come to our school and give out free Bibles. You'd never see that now, of course, but I do have vague memories of some very peaceful people coming into our class, talking about God, and then you got a small free Bible. Listen, I don't know if I can stress enough that back in the 70's, one did not just get things for the sake of getting things. So when someone showed up at school and gave you something, even if it was a Bible and your family really wasn't into church, it was completely awesome. So maybe it was that visit from the Gideons that inspired me to clean up my act. At any rate, Swearing was over for me. I even made what I thought was a beautiful bookmark one day in class. It had flowers on it and fancy lettering that said, "God bless you." And I thought it was super good. Then the friend in our friend group, who would always seem to be offended or mad or holding a grudge against someone else in the group, grabbed it when I wasn't looking and with a pen wrote my name on it and misspelled my last name. I was pissed. And then she got mad that I was pissed and gave me the silent treatment for at least a week. And one of the other girls in our group had to be the go-between for a while and relay messages to me like, "She says you're stupid." And I'd reply, "Well, tell her she's stupid." And on it went. Once I had the whimsical, backyard-loving, carefree little kid, free fairy spirit stamped out of me, I feel like school passed by amiably enough. I had a very nice group of friends, both boys and girls. I had a close group of girlfriends, and I even had a best friend, Julie. We were such a nice group of friends who all got along so chummily that the other half of our grade, who were a little tougher, a little meaner, and a little more streetwise, dubbed us the Get-Along Gang. What can I say? Our friend group. We probably were a bit goody two-shoes back then, I suppose, in the sense that we were in those younger years just quiet, nice kids, smart, maybe a little nerdy, who didn't really enjoy doing anything that would get us in trouble. Thoughts. Saturday, January 23rd, 2021. After dinner, I went down the basement to put a load of laundry into the dryer. We have too much junk down there. My childhood dresser is down there. In one of the drawers are 3 pairs of shoes, some decent-looking running shoes, some leather sandals, and a pair of very 90s, chunky-heeled black loafers with a decorative buckle. Loved those buckle shoes. Anyway, in the top drawer was a decorative box with a pretty cherub design on the outside. In this box were a few odds and ends, including a cheap little dollar store memo pad and a letter from my best childhood friend. The letter made me feel sad. She wrote it when we were 17. It talked about nearly being finished high school, and it alluded to how we drifted apart. She had a serious boyfriend, and well, I just didn't see her as much anymore. She insisted I was her best friend and she loved me. It gave me a little pang, but it was sweet. The little notepad was not pleasant at all. I was 28 and working full-time. I was in my last few weeks before I'd be moving to suburban hell. Hubs and I had bought a house. Part of me was relieved because it meant I could escape my job, which I hated. A lot of the writing in that little pad occurred while I was at work. During moments I had no customers and on my lunch breaks, I wrote story ideas in it, little snippets of books I wanted to write. But mostly it was filled with my crushing unhappiness and anxiety caused by my job. As I read it, I realized I have no memory now of coming in each first day of my new work week feeling sick with anxiousness. I don't remember that at all. I was so desperately angry and unhappy. The pages are saturated with my anguish and self-loathing. It was very uncomfortable to read. It was uncomfortable because I felt shocked at that girl. I felt sad for her. I felt annoyed with her. Why was she so wallowing? So weak? Snap out of it, I wanted to tell her. Pull it together. I felt awful for her because she was in so much pain. But I realized something interesting. I don't recognize that girl. I can't really relate to someone who had so much loathing for everything. She just seemed frail. So damn frail. And I realized right then, again, just how far I have come. I told my daughter, that poor girl was so damn depressed and so angry. She needed a lot of help. But you know what? She's fixing herself all by herself. I'm fixing myself all on my own. And it made me a little sad. And it made me a little angry. But you know what? I'm doing it. I am the one who is fixing me. Yes, I still have negative moments and challenging days. But I realize that I am happier than I have been in over 30 years. I am the one who looked at myself and said enough is enough. And I opened up a black door with nothing but darkness on the other side. And I walked through. I sat with my terror and anxiety. I felt where it sat in my body. I woke up alone in the dark of my room over and over again, and I taught myself that I am never alone, letting the full body anxiety sweat wash over me. I meditated and I played word games on my phone, and I did my breathing exercises. And eventually, when I was tired again, I fell back to sleep and was grateful for it. I cried over and over again for a year. I gave myself space and privacy to do it. I cried in my bed. I cried in the tub. I cried as I folded laundry. I cried as I washed dishes. I cried as I put my makeup on in the morning. I cried as I brushed my teeth at night. I cried and noticed just how much it made those neck muscles unclench. I cried so much that I joked with those close to me that I didn't even get a red puffy face any longer, like my face just finally got used to it. And I worked and worked to shut that lying fucking voice in my head up. That voice that said that everything is wrong. I am wrong. I'm ugly. I'm old. I've blown it. Shut the fuck up.